All right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So just finished recording my reaction to the finale of Haikyuu, and it was just amazing and phenomenal. Nothing's going to be able to top that, no matter what. But still got to react to One Piece. I initially planned to do this video first before jumping into Haikyuu, but I was way too excited about Haikyuu, so this one got pushed to the back burner. With that said, I think this chapter was potentially trending a few days ago before the official release came out, which again is not great. But apparently, let's see whatever event happened in this chapter that got people so excited about it. Thankfully, I didn't get spoiled on anything this week, so going into it pretty fresh. So without further ado, let's dive into One Piece. Oh, quick note before I dive into the chapter proper. My Yamato video script is pretty much ready. I still have to make a few tweaks to it. I have to add a few more notes of discussion. And depending on what happens in this chapter, I may or may not have to modify that, depending, but we'll see. With that said, if I can, I'm going to try to get that video out tonight. Kind of talking about Yamato's gender identity and the fan reaction to it and everything like that. If that's not possible, I will post about it on Twitter when I'm going to get it out, but I'm going to try to get it done early this week, most likely before Wednesday. I just want to put that out there. So with that out of the way, now let's dive into One Piece chapter 985 by Eiichiro Oda, translation Stephen Paul, lettering by Vanessa Satone. And we have one of the color spreads I've actually liked in the last little while. You have Kid and Luffy and Law, with Luffy and Law perched on an orange parrot flying through the sky, and Kid trying to grab Luffy's giant onigiri as from his other parrot. Very colorful. I like it a lot. That's really all I have to say. Did I say about translation by Stephen Paul? Well, I'll say it again. Translation Stephen Paul, lettering by Vanessa Satone. As we get into Onigashima rear entrance, we have chapter 985, the new Onigashima project. And we see, I knew you would come. He's like, whoa, they're really here. Jeff, yeah. As Rise is looking on angrily as the scabbards are approaching the back door entrance. And you see, yeah, haha. It's like, we may not have found traces of samurai infiltration, but it was impossible to think you wouldn't show up. And you see Kanjuro surrounded or flanked by a bunch of goonies as he goes, after all, I know better than anyone how persistent you are. And you see the scabbards going, Kanjuro, you will not be raiding us today. And you see a bunch of different looking gifters, generic scrubs, one that looks like Mickey Mouse in the back. And you see Kanjuro flanked by these two giant ones astride headless samurai astride horses, one carrying a sword and one a spear. And you see one of them going, hey, I know these guys. I saw them at the boiling 20 years ago. And you see Izo looking at the headless samurai warriors, as Izo goes, samurai warriors with their heads cut off. Very artful of you. And Kanjuro goes, they even look like you, don't they? So, Izo, you've returned, just so you can lose in battle. And Raizo goes, well, we have not lost our heads. Release Lord Momonosuke at once, as Izo's just silent. Oh shit, I forgot. Izo doesn't know about Kanjuro's betrayal. Or not, like, wasn't there an experience? I assume the Scourge would have told him about it. That's probably why he's silent at the sudden, heel turn. And you have Kanjuro going, oh, he resisted as best he could. He was desperate not to be a burden upon you. He found a dagger at some point and used it to free himself. I was hoping that we weren't going the typical route with that, but whatever. And you have, oh my god, you have Kanjuro putting out his hand where he's got this little nick with like a tiny little band-aid on it. He's like, of course, he cannot actually escape, but he cut my palm in the attempt. It's like, oh, I got a boo-boo on my arm. And he goes, and I did not take kindly to it. Ugh. I see him just kneeling over Momonosuke, all shouted out. He's just smacking him pretty harshly. And he goes, I punished him, but only enough to knock him unconscious. And you have Kiku just kind of tearing up, and she goes, oh, Lord Momonosuke. And you have Kawamatsu's getting angry listening to this. As you have, to my surprise, however, the boy still lives. I suppose that must be Oden's blood, but his suffering will ease soon. As we speak on the stage inside, they are about to carry out Momonosuke's public execution. You have Dogstrom going, "What's with What's with your Gara hand?" And he goes, nifty, eh? It's like, it's nice. This Cat Viper shows off his little gun arm. And you have ka. All we have to do is buy some extra time. In just a few minutes, the history of the Kozuki clan will officially end. And you see Kiku just putting on her mask as she gets ready for battle. And she pulls out her sword and goes, "You may shut your mouth now, Kondro. The wounds this one's katana leaves do not vanish in the afterlife. Like snow that remains into the spring, they will continue to torment your soul for eternity." Oh, badass. Love this. As you have Vassal of Kozuki. Oh, Vassal sounds grammatically off. Vassal of Kozuki, Kikunojo of the Fallen Snow. As you have a bang, as Kiku just takes a battle stance ready with the sword. Then you have Kondro going, "Then show me, Kiku," as they rush towards each other, Kondro's sword in his sheath to do a draw. And you have Cat Viper going, "Let's get going." As all the scabbards pull out their weapons, and you have Kawamatsu doing his fancy little acrobatic swirls and spins. As they run towards and start clashing, with Kiku and Kondro exchanging blows. And you see see Cat Viper on the next page going, "And what's with your Gara leg, huh?" And you see Dogstorm is attached, Shiki style, a sword to his leg, and he's lashing away with it as he goes, "I use 2 swords now." And Cat Viper's like, "Wow, not bad." And you have an as they're taking out the scrubs pretty easily. And you have inside the castle, it's like, "Hey, Kaido's speech is starting. Put it on the visual transponder snail." And you see back in the attic space, Yamato goes, "So speaking..." All right, I'll talk about this a little bit at the end of the chapter, and more in depth in the video, but yeah, I'm not liking how this is laid out. So you have attic space with Yamato going, "So speaking as Kozuki Oden, I follow the proper logic that says, as Ace's brother, you should be giving me a ride on your ship." Then you have Luffy getting all angry and going, "Hang on, Kozuki Oden's a guy that everyone loves. There's no way you can be Oden." And you have Yamato getting mad as he goes, "Okay, fine, maybe you're more Oden than me." And I have Luffy going, "What does that mean, I'm more Oden?" And you have Yamato kind of putting out his hands with the cuffs on it going, "How can I be Oden and not be free? It's because of these shackles. I wanted to go to sea with Ace and his friends so badly, but I've been imprisoned on this island since the age of 8. And Luffy goes, "Those are prison shackles?" And the reintroduction of another plot device I just absolutely despise. As Yamato goes, "That's right, they will explode if I leave this island." I'll get to that at the end. To be honest, it could all be a lie. I mean, what father would blow up his own child? I guess there goes there goes the whole Kaido's a good father thing. Just a quick look at the comment. Mystic commented, "It's not a grammatical error. Vassal is a holder of land by feudal tenure on conditions of homage and alliance." Yeah, so I don't think my issue is really with saying, the use of a vassal. I think it's more the way it's phrased as vassal of Kozuki. Just rolling off the town, it kind of sounds weird the way it's like vassal of Kozuki. It doesn't sound complete. Like if it's vassal of the Kozuki clan, I think would kind of roll better off the tongue. But yeah, it just kind of struck me as weird. Just vassal of Kozuki just felt a little bit incomplete. But yeah, I don't really have an issue with Kiku being called a vassal of the clan, but I appreciate the clarification. But yeah, should have probably clarified that further when I was talking about it. And but Yamada goes back to the chapter. Yamada goes, but just imagining the possibility that it's true keeps me trapped here with fear. I know what my father is like. Luffy goes, want me to take him off? And Yamada's like, huh? He's like, listen, do you really want to fight on our side? It'll mean seeing me whoop Kaido right before your eyes. And Yamato's like, I wish that I could do the same. Do you know how many times he's beaten me since childhood? Every time I challenged him, he ensured I paid a price. Luffy's like, fine, I'll take those off. And Yamato's like, you don't understand. These have kept me trapped here for 20 years without. Huh. Okay, that's interesting. I'll get to that at the end. It's been and you see it's been 2 years since Whitebeard's Paramount War, and you see, hey, they're projecting the speech from the stage, and you have Kaido on the screen going, and finally the world has churned into motion. The seven warlords were not disbanded because of some mad whim of the government. It is a sign of confidence that Navy headquarters has a new force capable of stopping us. And you see Yamato and Luffy just poking their heads out through a hole in the attic to watch this. And you have what the world government grows arrogant. We have decided to join hands with the Big Mom pirates to seize the greatest power in this world, the ancient weapons. And we have, in other words, it's like eek, huh? And and you see a zap, and a crackle, crackle. And it's like, huh? It's a crack, crack. I will say this for Big Mom, she knows how to enter in style. As you see her just kind of coming out Disney style with all these homies that she's created surrounding her. His janky ass looking designs. I know a lot of them are based on like different yokai in Japan and everything. Not saying anything about that. It looks cool, but definitely not a very threatening aura. And you have Prometheus just kind of blazing away behind her. And you have a dinky, like beaten up Zeus, poor Zeus, with X's over his eyes, like a little black thundercloud in the middle. I gotta say though, like this, I know that's probably not Oda's intention with how he's designed, but it looks kind of weirdly blackfacey the way he's drawn Zeus in this panel. Like just with the way the lips are drawn and like the black thundercloud, like the X's and everything, it just looks awkward, but that was probably unintentional. As you hear Big Mom going, did I hear you calling my name, Kaido? Making a grand entrance as you have, it's Big Mom. As all the cronies and samurai are just running away. And you see a ba-bang, ba-bang, and you have Captain of the Big Mom Pirates, Olin the Oiron, bounty 4.388 billion. Give me a second. When I zoom in on this Viz stuff, it's very hard to kind of zoom out again. And you see all of Kaido's goons going, she's terrifying up close. So that's the world's most powerful hag. And you see, oof, and a Zeus. As I see a slightly battered Nami and Carrot being tossed off to the side, as evidenced by the fact Big Mom has Zeus back in her control again. And Robin lifts up her glasses like, Nami? And you see, took you long enough, Lin Lin, as Kaido looks down from above on the platform. As she goes, but I'm still in time, aren't I? Ma. Don't be a stickler. If we bicker and fight, it'll stay out of reach. When we join sides, we pull it within range. And Kaido goes, listen up, people. We're putting our weight into the piracy business at long last. We're going to claim the One Piece. And Jeff, yeah! And all the goons are just cheering, going, yeah! And Kaido goes, the existence of the ancient weapons will bring fear and war to humanity. Prepare yourselves, for that is the world of violence that we seek. And you see Orochi going, well, isn't this something good? And you have Kaido going, which raises a question. And Yamato goes, the One Piece. As Luffy's like, hey, that's what I'm going to get. And Kaido goes, followers of Orochi, you must now choose. With its imposing waterfall defenses, Wano is a natural fortress that neither the Navy nor the world government can easily reach. If we expand with more weapons factories and turn the populace of the flower capital into a labor source, then will transform into a lawless land that all manner of pirates around the world will call paradise. And you have a huh? Huh? And Orochi goes, Kaido, wait a moment. The flower capital's my territory. Who do you think allowed you to make all those? Oh my god. You see King just holding out his scabbard as Kaido pulled the blade free and sliced off Orochi's head. Just being like, huh? Did I just hear a little bitch? Oh my god, that's hilarious. And you have all the gifters going, huh? Eek! It's like, whoa! And you see headless Orochi flopping to the ground. And Fukurochi going, Shogun Orochi! And Big Mom's just enjoying this. She goes, ma, 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 ha, 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 ha. And Kaido continues, the concerns of the Kurozumi clan and the Kozuki clan mean nothing to us as he slams his fist on Momo's little cross torture device. He goes, you have 5 seconds to choose, followers of Orochi. And you have Luffy going, huh? Hey, that's Momo. And he starts screaming out, Momo! And Yamato's like, hey, don't shout. And you see, whoa, and as they both crash through the ceiling. Oh, wow, who could have predicted that was going to happen? And you have, he just killed Shogun Orochi. But why? They've been allies for years and years. And you see all those nameless samurai that we've seen is kind of shivering and shaking as you have, make your choice now, samurai. Join us and beat pirates or fight us now and die. We are turning this country into a pirate empire in preparation for the coming world war. We'll be ranging out for more proper raids. Tonight, Onigashima becomes the flower capital. Wano will be no more. And you see, as this is going on, everyone's reacting. And you see Kiku standing there with a bloodied blade, tears dripping out of her mask. And you see beaten up Momos. You have Wano will be no more. Instead, there will only be new Onigashima, and its shogun shall be my son Yamato. Oh boy, all right. And you see, look, there's Yamato. As Luffy's running up with Yamato chasing him, as Yamato goes, not even for a second, stupid dad. And he goes, and Luffy goes, hey, show me the way. They're gonna kill Momo. And you see someone call the Tobi Roppo. So next chapter hits August 2nd. Oh boy, all right. Thoughts, I guess. Mystic says, so sorry, lol. Not a problem at all. I should have clarified that a lot. I should have clarified what I meant when I said the Kozuki thing sounded kind of weird. It was definitely my fault. My little brother commented, get fucked, Orochi, yes. So I'll get into all of that. I'll just go through chapter page. I'll go through it page by page, kind of with my thoughts. So Conjuro kind of coming out to block the scabbards, I guess, makes sense. But I don't really care for, again, Oda kind of trying to sideline and just kind of like vaguely hint at what happened in the fight between him and Kiku. Just because, as I've said before, I don't really like this tactic that Oda uses of trying to pretend that someone's either dead or injured just to cause speculation, because he has a track record of having kneecapped himself by doing this, and then revealing later that the person is alive. We saw this most recently with Pound himself, where, that was the last time where I legitimately, for a moment, thought that Oda was actually killing off a character. I think the last time it really had any kind of emotional impact on me. And Oda immediately just undercut it by reintroducing Pound and be like, oh no, he's completely alive. And I know so many people are speculating oh, Pound's head got cut off. oh, Pound is dead, there's so much speculation on whether he was alive or dead, or how he got away, or if someone rescued him, or stuff like that. And the fact that, and it's not so much that I hate that Oda does that or uses that tactic to kind of build suspense and keep like reader interest. It's more that at this point, the fact he keeps doing it and trying to pretend like, there's any legitimacy to that idea that someone will die or has died when he just shows like a bloody blade and someone crying. It feels very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? It feels very disingenuous when he does that. And it feels insulting to me as a reader when he expects me to kind of buy that, oh, hey, maybe this time's finally the time a character's going to die, because it really does undercut a lot of the emotional investment and the tension and stuff he builds when he does stuff like that. So I don't really care for that. And I suppose apart from that, I do like now that we're seeing Conjuro's like drawing skills put to actual use, where he's drawing, these intricate headless horse figures and everything just to show off his skills, just to be a dick. But again, this is another one of those moments where I'm like, if Oda had just spent a few more chapters, a little bit more time developing the scabbards, giving them more personality, giving them more backstory, and just developing their relationship a little bit further, I feel like then scenes like this one with Scabbards coming face to face with Conjuro after his betrayal, and him kind of gloating about how evil he is and like how much he enjoyed just like pounding a little kid into, and just wailing on a little kid until he was unconscious, and like making a big deal about this little nick he got on his hand and like how painful that was and all that. I feel like if Oda had just done more to build up the investment, a lot of these scenes would land better, and readers would be more emotionally invested and would feel like the anger and the disdain and the disappointment the Scabbards are supposed to feel, that someone they considered family was able to do something, so horrific, or is able to act in such a malicious way. I feel like a lot of it would land better. But because he did right now, like me seeing this and seeing, Kiku crying at how Momo's being treated, and Raizo and Kawamatsu kind of just like barely containing their anger at Kanjuro. It's kind of like objectively, I'm like, yeah, I can understand where their anger is coming from. I can see why they're upset, and yeah, I can understand what emotions I'm supposed to be feeling. But because I don't really care about any of them as characters, I don't really care about their relationship to Conjuro, I don't really care about the betrayal, a lot of it really does kind of fall flat. And I wish Oda had just, taken that little bit of extra time just to develop it a little bit further, because that's all he really would have needed. And I think one thing would have added a lot more weight to this emotionally as well is if Conjuro really had leaned into, the cut on his finger, and it's like talking about like how much it hurt, and like how betrayed he felt and all that. And if you intercut that with the Scabbards thinking back to Oden having been boiled, and like the pain and the torment he went through when he was being boiled and still supporting them, I think that adding that, intercutting panels of that into this would have done a lot more to play up exactly how bad Conjuro is. And like it would have just been like one or two extra panels that would have given so much more impact to the scene that desperately needed it. But it is what it is. That said, I will say the one thing I really do appreciate about Wano is these poetic little lines that Oda has tossed in. Like when the Scabbards are doing their march to, for the whatever that date was, when they went after Orochi, like things like that have really been impactful and poetic, and I really love those moments. So I love getting that with Kiku going, the wounds I leave do not vanish in the afterlife, like the snow that remains into the spring. And, that being used to explain her epithet of, Kikunojo of the fallen snow. That was badass. That was incredible. I loved it. More of that, please. Like, that was a really good scene. That's probably the part I enjoyed most about this chapter. And then that brings us to Yamato. What do I say about Yamato? So I'll talk about this in depth in my Yamato video. So I'm not going to talk for like 20, 30 minutes about this. But I do not like how Oda is framing Yamato's whole identity as being, either Yamato playing dress up as Kozuki Oden, or Yamato thinking that he's, the reincarnation of Kozuki Oden, or whatever, and trying to like maintain this air of mystery around it, because there's obviously some backstory he's going to dig into with this, and it's obviously going to be related to Kaido in some manner. Because this was a thought I posted on Twitter that I had a few days ago. When I was thinking about this, specifically with respect, why is Yamato so adamant that he is Kozuki Oden? Like wearing the accoutrements and trying to basically like, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically trying to imitate, Oden, like reading the journals and everything. And I mentioned this in a couple of videos I've done regarding Wano and the themes and why I don't think it's ending and stuff like that. And one of the ideas I brought up was this whole idea of, how Wano has had this theme or idea of masks, people wearing masks, and how that mask that they wear either hides their true identity or their true intentions, whatever, you know. But the whole idea being that at the end of one, I suspect that everyone is going to be quote unquote unmasked, and their true intentions will be laid bare, and they'll be able to live how they are. And so, in relation to Yamato specifically, that idea has become more interesting to me, because when we were first introduced to Yamato, the whole reveal of well, Yamato is potentially transmasculine was set around Yamato wearing a Hanya mask. And again, like I speculated, that was what made me think, oh, what if Yamato is a trans mask person? And then we get the whole reveal once he takes the mask off, and you're like, oh, we get that reveal. Then we get the other one of, oh well, Yamato thinks that he is Kozuki Oden. And so it got me to thinking, like, all right, the vibes I'm getting off of Yamato pretending to be Oden is kind of like, a little kid that plays dress up, that pretends to be Captain America, or Batman or whoever, as kind of a coping strategy, to escape something in real life, or to kind of like embody or take on the values that those characters or those symbols represent. And that really is kind of an interesting concept with regards to Yamato being like, all right, that could be a really interesting and unique way to kind of explore Yamato, kind of trying to figure out his gender identity and who he is and what he represents and all that. But another thought that struck me when I was thinking about this was Kaido's whole deal until now has been that he likes breaking people's spirits, he likes breaking people's spirits, crushing their wills, and making them subservient to him. And I've always kind of speculated this must have something to do with Kaido's backstory, because we know, he's been tortured countless times. We know they've tried to execute him countless times. He's potentially been experimented on, things like that. And it kind of struck me that even though we're supposedly approaching the climax of Wano, we still haven't gotten Kaido's backstory, and we still haven't really explored the reason he drinks so much, or why he's so determined to bring a war to this world and just lay it to waste. And it really could end up being as easy as just Kaido just wants to see the world burn, et cetera, like the Joker. But I do think that I don't think that's typical of Oda. I do think there is something deeper, more fundamental to Kaido's reasoning that we're eventually going to get, similar to how we got Big Mom's kind of backstory in Whole Cake Island. So I'm kind of been speculating, wondering, like, when are we going to get that backstory when we're so deep into Wano and like the conflict seems to be coming to a head? When are we going to get that backstory, and how does it potentially tie in to Kaido's, desire to break people's spirits and like the torture and everything else? And the reason I want to specifically bring it up with Yamato is I wonder if part of the reason why Yamato, took on the identity of Kozuki Oden, or wants to be like Kozuki Oden, is maybe because he was the one of the only people that never really broke despite everything that Kaido and Orochi put him through. Like because I'm not saying he didn't have his moments where his spirit was kind of crushed and he didn't fight back, but unlike the other ones that other people that Kaido's kind of beaten and defeated, like Moria, who kind of gave up, lost their ambition. You know, Oden basically did not stop fighting to the bitter end, and he was one of the few people I think Kaido respected. So I wonder if that's part of the reason why Yamato took on the identity of Kozuki Oden, is because Yamato was like, hey, if I embody the spirit of this one man, this one person that faced up to my father and did not have his spirit broken, still stayed true to his values, his beliefs, to who he was, then maybe if I can embody his spirit, some of that will rub off on me, and I'll also be able to stand up to my father in the same way that Kozuki Oden was able to stand up to him. And it really struck me with that, especially in this chapter where we have Yamato kind of saying, I have these cuffs on me, and I'm told that they're going to explode. I wanted to go to sleep really badly, and you know, I want to believe it's a lie. And I think that's what really struck me with this chapter is the insecurity in Yamato's speech, where he's talking about how, I want to believe that my father couldn't be such a terrible person that he would put exploding cuffs on his child to make sure that they would not be able to leave. I want to believe that it's not true, but I'm still afraid of what will happen if I do and it turns out to be true. What will it mean for me if I do lose my hands? So I like that little bit of humanity where Yamato's like, I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me. Like, imagine the possibilities of what these cuffs could do to me. And that's what kind of started this thought process of like, all right, what this kind of fed into the thought of me thinking, oh, Yamato is kind of a scared little kid, playing dress up almost, kind of like a kid plays superhero. But I don't know how true that is, because Yamato's like, oh, I've had these trapped here for 20 years with these cuffs. Like, I've been trapped here. So I wonder what Yamato's age was going to be, because last chapter I would have guessed that Yamato would have been 15 to 18, maybe, based on that. I know a lot of people are speculating that maybe the cuffs went on after Yamato tried to run away with Ace or something else like that happened, but I don't know. Like, the fact that Yamato's like 20 plus years old kind of makes that a little bit weirder, but again, we'll have to kind of wait to see where Oda's going with that. But like I said, I'll talk about it in the video because I still do not like how he's approached, and I don't think he's approached it well thus far. But I'll get that in the Yamato video, talk about it. And then, so Yamato stuff, mixed bag overall. I really want to like this character. I know a lot of people are probably going to be like fully on board the Yamato hype train after this, being like, Yamato for Straw Hat, Yamato for Straw Hat. Because you definitely got some kind of like Robin vibes where, Robin initially wasn't invited to be on the crew and she just kind of snuck on board, like just demanded to be let on. So I've got those kind of same vibes with Yamato. I don't know if I really buy that Oda's just going to introduce a brand new character in this arc and have them join the Straw Hats like literally during that time in the thing, but not saying it's impossible. We'll see. And Kaido's speech about, the several warlords were disbanded because the sign at the conference of the Navy headquarters just made me laugh, because I'm like, all right, the Navy is literally like possibly admit, I still think it's a red herring, that they've committed all their forces just to wiping out the warlords. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. Like, Kaido being like, oh, the warlords were such a serious threat to us emperors. I'm like, apart from maybe Mihawk and Boa, I don't think any of the maybe Doflamingo, I don't think any of the warlords would have really been considered a serious threat to any of the emperors in any regard. So it's kind of funny to think that Kaido actually does take it seriously and be like, oh, the government's growing arrogant to think that this new force will stop us when the warlords could. Like, I don't know, it just seemed weird how like serious he was about it. But yeah, like I said, I already talked about the Big Mom stuff. Carrot Nami being captured is kind of like, yeah, all right, but I'm waiting to see how that pans out because again, I don't really trust Oda to do that satisfactorily to make me believe that they're in any sort of danger right now, just given how he's treated a lot of the escapes they had in Whole Cake Island. I'd love to be proven wrong, but we'll see where that goes. Which brings us to the ancient weapons, because I have been on this boat since what was it, 2017 or so. I've been going on about how Caribou is super important to this arc because he knows about Poseidon and he was going to tell someone about about Poseidon being Shirahoshi being one of the ancient weapons. And I know a lot of people are speculating like, oh, what if it's Kaido? What if it's Kaido that he's going to tell? What if it's this? What if it's that? And I've always been of the mind it makes more sense that he was always talking about Blackbeard being the person he's going to tell. And I still do maintain that he is eventually going to spill the secrets to Blackbeard. But now that we know that Kaido's kind of announced he's looking for the ancient weapons, makes me wonder if whether if he knows of the location of one of the ancient weapons, or if he's just like, oh, now that I have the resources of my crew and the Big Mom Pirates, oh, will be able to find them and use them for my goals. Or if Caribou is going to try to use that as leverage to try to get Kaido and Big Mom to go after Shirahoshi at some point. Because there still is the whole prediction that Madame Charlie did that Fishman Island will be destroyed. So maybe this is the portent of that. Will be Caribou spilling the secrets to these two, and then going after Shirahoshi, and then that being the impetus for the destruction of Fishman Island. We'll have to wait and see. But that said, yes, I'll get to the new Onigashima stuff at the end. I want to talk about Orochi because I know the reaction I should have had to that has been like, shock and surprise and like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. There is a 99.9999999% chance that Orochi is not dead. There is not a chance in hell at this point that after what he did with Pound, what he did with Doflamingo, what he's done with like every single death fake out he's done, there's not a chance in hell that I believe that Orochi is dead. And I know a lot of people are going to speculate, oh, what if Orochi was an ink clone? Like, what if Pandra created an ink clone? I doubt that because the betrayal really does seem like it came unexpectedly to Orochi. So unless he later reveals, like, oh, I knew Kaido was planning something, so I had this secret backup plan, and I had Kandra build an ink clone of me or a trick drawing of me, just in case. Maybe he's paranoid enough to have done something like that. I don't really buy it. But I think the more plausible theory is because Orochi is has eaten the mythical, Yamato no Orochi fruit, I think is more likely that either the reveal will be his head can grow back, or that he had, because he is that Yamato no Orochi, he has, what is it, 8 or 9 heads, and you're gonna have to cut it all off, just like the Hydra itself. Cut it all off, cauterize the wound, whatever, and cut all the heads off to actually kill him. So I don't for a second buy that he's actually dead. But the betrayal does bring up some interesting story possibilities because, again, this was something I talked about in my last Wano video, where I pointed out that Orochi demanded CP0 give him a battleship, and we still have not seen that yet. He demanded this payment for the last shipment of weapons and everything he gave them. I think I pointed this out in the reaction when they were doing the whole naval battle. But I pointed it was kind of weird that we didn't see, a naval battleship kind of coming into play at that point. And it kind of seemed like a weird thing to keep as like an ace in your pocket, ace in your sleeve for a later point when it seems like most of the battle's going on in Onigashima. So if Orochi does turn out to be alive after this, while Kaido and his crew are distracted by other things, And given the fact that, he kind of mouthed off to the world government about how he doesn't need them, he doesn't need their support because he's got Kaido. And now that Kaido has basically outright stated he does not have any use for Orochi anymore. He does not have any need for him anymore. He's like, he's going to take over his land. I wonder if Orochi's basically going to, quote unquote, sign a deal with the devil, call up CP0 and the government and say, hey, I want to make a new deal with you. I'll provide you with all the weapons and things you want as long as you help me take back my country from Kaido and help me defeat him. Because again, I've always said that there's going to be some form of marine involvement in Wano. And initially, I thought that was going to come through Drake. It might potentially still be doing that because Kaido announced, hey, we're teaming up to search for one of the ancient weapons. We're going to make this into a pirate's paradise. If at this point Akainu still sits on his hands and he's like, I can't do anything, bro. I'm sorry. I mean, those pirates, dang, oh man, my hands are tied, man. Like, I will be kind of calling bullshit at that point. But now I wonder if Orochi is going to be the instigator that brings the Marines to Wano. Because, again, I do expect them to do some kind of show of force to prove that the new weapon is a threat. And I feel like this would be the impetus for them to finally do that. So we'll see what that turns into. The new Onigashima thing's interesting. I think I speculated in Twitter last week that maybe Kaido's going to do something akin to Thriller Bark and make Wano into, or Onigashima into like a floating ship. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be like that, but it'll be the whole new Onigashima. So it'll be interesting to see like what shape that's going to take. But yeah, finally, I've been asking for like the pieces to finally start moving, the plot to start progressing in Wano properly. So it seems like we're finally getting to that point. And I was kind of wondering where Kaido thought that Yamato would be willing to be Shogun of New Onigashima and like actually be willing to rule over it. But I guess the fear that Yamato feels for his father, in conjunction with him using the cuffs as a threat thing, he probably was just going to forcefully kind of force him to take on that role. And again, speaking to it, I feel like he's probably also going to go into the whole break Yamato's spirit and kind of make him subservient and forcing him to take that role. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the pieces are all going to come together, because right now Oda's put out like 100 different feelers, and there still isn't a clear kind of picture or direction for how this arc is going to go or how its arc's going to play out. A little bit interesting. So we'll see how that goes. And I should also mention before I tie it off here, I do not also buy the whole Kiku crying sadly, Kiku crying sadly over potentially having killed Kanjuro. I do not buy that for a second. I think this speaks more like Kiku couldn't bring herself to kill Kanjuro and let him escape after like scarring him or stabbing him or something. And we're going to see him going and doing that later. So I don't buy any of that either. I think Kanjuro's probably going to pull an Absalom and sneak Orochi out of the banquet hall without anyone noticing. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Overall, chapter with some decent moments. I'll quickly look at the comments. So Damon Spot asks, Wano started with a chapter named Seppuku. Do you think the arc will end with a suicide? It's an interesting question. Will the arc end with a suicide? I think that depends on Kaido's backstory. Because I know this theory has been around in the fandom for a long time. I think Greg Werner, many of you probably know him as Ochimuso108 on Twitter. I think he was the originator of this idea that Blackbeard is going to show up at some point in Wano, and he's basically going to kill Kaido, instead of Luffy. Like, he'll be the one to kill Kaido and kind of start a whole new domino effect. So I still do believe that's going to happen. Like, Kaido is going to die by the end of this arc. I'm almost 100% sure that is going to happen, despite everything I've said about Oda not killing off characters being super annoying. I feel like Kaido's whole dream and everything else has been leading up to the point that he is going to die by the end of this arc. Is that going to be a suicide though? I think that depends on Kaido's backstory. I'm of the mind I don't think it's going to be a suicide. I think we're going to get an explanation at some point that will make us sympathize with Kaido and all the events and everything that led him to become suicidal. But I don't think he's going to commit suicide at the end and die. I don't think that's how it's going to play out. With that said, though, I feel this is like completely speculation on my part. I feel like the double whammy though would be Kaido deciding not to try suicide anymore. By the end of the arc, Kaido deciding that life is worth living, and then at that point, Blackbeard swooping in and killing him. That I think is a potential thing I can see happening, and I think that would feel like way more impactful. This guy that gave up on life, was looking for a way to die, was going to start a war over it, finally finding a reason to live, only to be killed immediately afterwards. I feel like that's the way it's going to go down, but we'll have to wait and see until Wano develops a bit further for me to see if that's the way it's going to go or not. But no, I think the Kaido suicide thing will be more something Oda explores in relation to his backstory rather than something that actually does happen. And then Mystic says, can't wait for that. Ascender volume can't wait for that Ascender volume to read through. Yes, read it yesterday was good. I cannot wait to put the volume on hold. I'm excited to get to it. I don't know. I have to just look on timing to see when I'll be able to get around to it. If I have free time today, I'll try to get around to doing Ascender Volume 2 today, because I've been kind of just been raring to get at it ever since I finished Volume 1. They'll definitely be out sometime this week. I'm super hyped to get into it as well. And then we have Harris Vasios going. That sounds really exciting, but instead of the Marines, I want CP0 to take action because they barely had any focus thus far. Yeah, I mean, I do suspect that if Orochi does reach out to the Marines, it'll have to be through CP0 because they are as kind of like his the middleman between him and the Marines. So it definitely will have to go through CP0. The only question will be, what story is CP0 going to spin to Akainu to get him to actually move on Wano and Orochi? Because on the one hand, like it seems like CP0 has been doing deals under the table with Wano and Orochi to get the weapons and everything else. And I don't think that Akainu is kind of twigged to that. I don't think Akainu knows that they're getting the marine weapons and things from Wano right now. I think CP0 has kind of kept that hush-hush. So I think Oda kind of needs to go into that to kind of talk about, is CP0 getting the weapons, only for themselves and their forces to protect celestial dragons? Or are they also, providing weapons for the main marine forces themselves? I think that's still a little bit debatable on what's happening. Because I feel like if Akainu knew that the weapons were coming from Wano, and knowing that he knows that Kaido is the one that's there, and Kaido is more than likely the one providing those weapons, I don't think he would ever use them. Like, I don't think he would be willing to use weapons provided by pirates to fight against pirates. So it'll be interesting to see if either CP0 decides to do something covert and like send someone in to investigate what's happening in Wano, get a better idea of that, and then still for that determine it. I think, again, in my other video, I think I speculated that when Drake was telling Kobe that he saw CP0 in the capital the other day, I think I said we didn't have a timeline for when that happened or when that happened. And I speculated, since we saw, Stussy infiltrating Big Mom's island under the guise of being a Queen of the Pleasure District and one of the underworld brokers, I wonder if CP0 already has a plant in Wano, if Orochi's going to reach out to that plant to get information out of the country. But again, it's so up in the air right now. Like, it really cannot firmly say which direction this story is going to be going, or which direction it's going to be going. I think I can say I'm excited for the potential possibilities of where it can go, but right now there's too many disclaimers and caveats that I have to provide if I wanted to kind of firmly support one idea. But yeah, I do agree with Harris that I do feel like CP0 is going to play a bigger role no matter what the Marine presence in Wano is going to be. And we have Damon Spade asking again, Kaido's still missing an ace in the crew, right? Do you expect something to fill that missing link? Yes, Kaido is still missing an ace in the crew. I know a lot of YouTubers have speculated on this, potentially saying, I know one of them I saw said, speculated that Ace might have potentially been the actual Ace in Kaido's crew at some point in the past when he came to Wano, that he might have been forced to join the Beast Pirates for some time before he's able to get away. I know someone else has pointed out that when we see in the flashback, with Kaido's forces all silhouetted when the castle is burning, I know someone pointed out that you have King and Queen whose silhouettes were distinctly recognizable, but the Jack silhouette didn't look like the Jack we know, and that he would have been too young at that point to have been, or was it Jack? I can't remember. One of the calamities didn't look like that. I know people are speculating that because it was 20 years ago, Jack would have been too young to be part of the calamities. And I know a lot of people are speculating maybe Pizarro would have been part of the Beast Pirates before, potentially as king before he maybe got removed and sent to Impel Down. So do we have an ace in the crew? Honestly, I don't know. I feel like Yamato might be the ace in the hole or ace in the sleeve, however you want to use that phrase. Yamato might be that one just based on like how much supposed confidence Kaido has, because we know Yamato's pretty damn powerful. Like Yamato was able to go pretty well toe to toe with Luffy without seemingly breaking a sweat. So Yamato potentially could do that. Oda could also surprise us and introduce some random new person and be like, oh, there's this hidden powerhouse in the crew that we didn't know of. But yeah, I don't know. It would fit well with the playing card theme of his crew, but I don't know what shape that's going to take. That's one of the things where I'm like, it could go either way, but yeah, I don't know, because was either on Twitter or last week I mentioned that in the tale of Momotaro, we have Momotaro, Momo himself. The child is accompanied by a pheasant, a monkey, and a dog to take down the demon emperor and everything like that. And the monkey is obviously Luffy. I think a lot of people have said the pheasant is obviously Marco the Phoenix, and people are like, all right, well, then who's the dog? Like, who fits the theme of the dog? A lot of people are thinking was Dog Storm because he has literally dog in his name, and I think a lot of people are saying, because the horrible One Piece scans calling Katakuri Dogtooth, they're like, oh, what if Katakuri is going to come back? And I'm like, no, I don't buy that. And I think I speculate that Yamato might be the dog because we don't know if Yamato has a devil fruit or not. So that might be kind of like the ace in the crew reveal is like Yamato has a super powerful devil fruit that Kaido gave to him. And that might be why, Yamato is potentially ace, but I don't know. To me, it's one of those elements where it's like you can take it or leave it. I don't really need an ace in Kaido's crew. I'm not going to be too broken up or torn up if we don't get an ace fulfilling that role. I don't think it's something that's necessary. Could it be a good surprise to introduce? Depends on the execution. But that's one of those elements where it's like it'd be nice, but not necessary. So we'll see how that all goes out. But I've been talking for almost an hour, so I'm probably going to cut it off there. I appreciate everyone that's tuned in for the stream. Appreciate all the comments and everything, all the comments, questions, theories everyone's been sending in. Please do more of this for future streams. I really do love kind of having conversations and theories and speculating things like this. With that said, it looks like we're finally getting to the point where Wano is going to start to move, because it started with chapter 910 or so. So it's been 70 plus chapters that Wano's been running, and like I think that's almost Whole Cake Island length. That's almost like 2/3 or more of Dressrosa. That's like 3/4 of Dressrosa. how long that arc was, and it looks like we're finally getting started. So I'm gonna admit, like for the first time in a while, I'm excited about seeing where the story's gonna go, where the characters are gonna go. I still have a lot of reservations about Yamato specifically. Like I said, I'll get to that in the video because I really do want to talk about it. I want to give Oda the benefit of the doubt because I know when the Yamato reveal initially happened, saw a lot of transgender fans and a lot of LGBT fans of One Piece kind of expressing a hopeful optimism that we're finally going to see a turnaround in Oda's attitudes towards how he represents transgender people in the series to a more positive way rather than, stereotypes or caricatures. So I'm really hoping he does handle Yamato with the respect he deserves, and the same with Kiku. But I have to wait and see how that all goes out. With that said, I'll finish sign off. This is Ash. I'll talk to you all later.